Testing, testing, 1, 2. Are we streaming proper?
Monk,
Yeah?
the title says Magi Knights 2 player facing mechanics.
Yeah, that...
You haven't changed these since a while.
Because I've been using Restream for the longest time.
I know. But apparently Restream is what's the issue here, not OBS.
Mm-hmm. But at least we know what the issue is. So I'm going to pop out the chat so I can look at it there. And just doing a bit of messing with OBS.
Yep.
So that I can at least see when people are talking shit.
Yep. You're going to have to change the description of this eventually, too.
Yeah.
Eventually. You can probably just copy it over from the first app.
Mm-hmm.
All right, people. It's all time for that chant we know and love. Technology! It likes to give us the middle finger.
Yep.
And because this description was lost to time because of a disconnect issue, the time travel sequence is something that feels lifted from some of the best works of Hayao Miyazaki with its surrealism and whimsy. I don't normally like to make this comparison because I feel like things are unfairly compared to Ghibli in general, or are just it's almost people genericizing what Ghibli films are like. But in this case, it's a sequence where Hitomi literally wakes up on a magic bus that is traveling through time, piloted by a whimsical yellow slime thing that demands payment from her before she can get off at her stop. And she pays him in Pocky. He accepts this.
If only
Keep
my
that
bus
in
fare
mind.
was that easy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Only
right?
if only any transport fare was that easy, Monk. But keep in mind that for later.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where we had left off was the trio of friends, Asagi, Kurumi, and Sho, who think that Hitomi is dating their other friend Yuito Aoi, who was the boy whose room she suddenly found herself in, and help her find the same magic shop that has been standing in Nagasaki as in her future, where she meets family members she never would have gotten a chance to meet before.
Mm-hmm.
Kohaku's mother, her great-grandmother, and Kohaku's grandmother, Hitomi's great-great-grandmother, plus Kohaku's father, Hitomi's great-grandfather, who is a non-mage, making him the most normal person in their family. He's also the straight man and logical mind that tends to speak reason. But when she gets there, she finds out that Kohaku is still in England, learning magic from an English school.
Mm-hmm.
But it is with that revelation that Hitomi doesn't know what else to do. And her great-great-grandmother, Kohaku's grandmother, thus Hitomi's great-great-grandmother, is like, well, you're family. You can stay with us. And it's also at that time that she tries to prove their lineage with an azurite earring that all, or well, he told me it was an azurite earring, but a piece of azurite that every witch or mage, I guess, in the family gets. It's handed down from person to person in different forms, only to find out that she's dropped it somewhere. And using a little bit of
Whoops.
magic with the guidance from her family, the image she gets is, oh, it's under the bed I hid under when I first got into this world. Well, crap.
Mm-hmm. Because, you know, when it rains, it pours.
Certainly.
So, moving right along, and if I got thrown off, well, the whole technical difficulties can really mess with one's concentration.
It is what it is, Monk.
Mm-hmm. But that does bring us to the second episode. I can't stand magic.
Maho nante daikirai.
Mm-hmm. Where we end up the first thing that we end up learning it, and this is something interesting, is that even though Hitomi can't see color, there seems to be an exception with Aoi's artwork.
Yep. She follows Yuto Aoi when she originally went back to find her earring, only to see that he had it in his pocket when he was leaving his house, and follows him to a park bench, where as she's coming close to him and watching him draw on his tablet, everything on the tablet is in color, and she is, frankly, amazed.
Not only that, but in her, I guess in her mind's eye, the picture that she's seeing almost comes to life.
Yeah, it starts to move, and a golden fish pops out, and it kind of causes the both of them to meet each other at that point.
Mm-hmm. But this this there is some back and forth about the video and a bit of fumbling as far as explaining that magic was the cause.
Yep. Because the entire reason he found the earring was the three that we had met before had taken a video of the girl climbing out of his window, because that's how she escaped. And that eventually got back to his mom, who cleaned his room and found the earring. And his mom's like, oh, who's your new girlfriend? And he's like, she's not my girlfriend. In fact, since she's climbing up the window, wouldn't you think she's a robber?
Well, you know how it is. The rules of the universe, parents must embarrass their kids.
Yeah. Yeah. She certainly follows that rule.
Mm-hmm. Oh. But it's she wants to learn more about the drawings, but that doesn't come to be. And later on, Kohaku's family decides to enroll Hitomi in the school because everybody puts two and two together pretty quickly regarding the whole from the future thing. But
well,
good.
I mean, Hitomi tells her family.
Yeah. And even if they didn't, they would have figured it out pretty quickly, anyways.
Yeah. They're a bunch of smart mages.
Mm-hmm. And eventually she is reunited with the members of the Photography and Arts Club, including Aoi. And Kohaku is scheduled to come back since she's in the same class.
Yep. She'll come back at some point in the very near future, they say.
But Aoi requests a bit of a show of magic to shoot down the rumor that Hitomi is Aoi's girlfriend. And while
Yeah.
she does make a bit of a magic show with a sparkle of stars, she is reminded that she doesn't like magic.
As the title went, Maho Nante Daikirai,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't a dislike. Daikirai, great hatred. She to the point of avoiding magic, she hates it.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of reflected in how the display of magic that she gives in this moment is not all that impressive.
It's just a. It really is just a. It's like a sparkler in her hand. Really, that's all. But even though she does that, Aoi is like, "Yo, I'd like to see more of your magic," and that gives her a little bit of hope, especially when he says, "I'll do it in return to see one of my drawings." And she starts practicing more magic, which Sho sees one night her practicing her magic as the school grounds are closing. It's the same shower of stars, but a little stronger than before.
Mm-hmm. And that brings us to episode 3, No Rain, No Rainbow.
Which didn't have a Japanese name.
Mm-hmm. But all the clubs are doing the presentation fair to try and recruit first years, and Hitomi is encouraged to look around and see different clubs, which leads her to the photography and arts club. Um, originally they were separate clubs, but since Aoi was the only person in the art section, and the photography club was short on members, they decided to just put 2 and 2 together.
Or in this case, 1 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 1 and 3, and then Chigusa becomes 4, and now you've got 5.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't met Chigusa yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Oh. Aoi ends up showing Hitomi the art section because she wishes to try both ends off, try both sides, and this gives a chance to do some freehand drawing.
But because it's more freehand painting, but being unable to see color, she tries to paint a bunch of stuffed animals that are set for that explicit purpose, and let's just say the color choice is out of this world in more ways than one. It's a very, very brash painting.
Mm-hmm.
Which Aoi's like, I've never seen something like that before, but it looks cool. It intrigues him, basically. But at that point, the rest of the club shows back up to show her the photography section with its own hands-on stuff. But at that point, the drama club has a presentation that they need help from the photography club president Sho, because he is the club president.
Mm-hmm.
He has to run off, which leaves just Asagi, Kurumi, and Hitomi to pull off this presentation, which is a themed presentation of taking pictures of a model walking across water, which they specifically bought magic for. And I do say bought, not brought, because it's definitely some star sand that was purchased.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Since they are shorthand, he told me is asked to be the model, and they put a dry ice effect on the pool, and said, "Hey, if you use the blue star sand, you'll be able to walk on water." Of course, he told me, he's like, "Which one's the blue star sand?" And Kudumi's like, "Oh, you'll know which one it is. It's the only tube without a label." She lied without knowing she had lied, because there are actually 2 tubes without labels, and he told me he obviously picks the wrong one, which is a pink one that causes snow to start falling. But she's still able to walk on water for some reason until Kudumi breaks her concentration and she falls into the pool.
And they end up getting in trouble because they ended up breaking an agreement to not screw around with the pool.
Yeah, they weren't. Nobody was supposed to go
Yeah.
into the pool. They were just supposed to use it as part of the backdrop.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these both this and both the painting and the star sand put together allow Aoi, who has been observing Hitomi closely, to realize that she can't see colors. And she asks him to keep it a secret, and also tells him that it's only his drawings that she sees colors in.
Yep. Which is definitely odd, but the whole affair could be considered odd in some form, especially since color blindness is normally not that kind of selective.
Not only that, but color blindness is almost never monochrome only.
Mm-hmm.
You lose some parts of the color palette, but
Mhm.
you never go fully without color.
Oh no.
Which is, but in the aftermath of all of this, there's a couple things that are hinted at. One is that despite her dislike of this. Despite her dislike of magic, it's clear that magic doesn't dislike her.
Oh.
And 2, Aoi realizes that Hitomi can't see color, which Hitomi wants to keep a secret.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You already mentioned that, Munger.
Mm-hmm. Again,
Uh,
the whole restream debacle threw me off my game.
No, I get it, Monk.
But that brings us to episode 4. Stop calling me Granny.
Oba-chan wa yamete!
Mm-hmm. Where Kohaku finally returns from England and decides to use her magic to create an illusion of her school in London using some photos. But but a train comes in right in the photo and causes a bunch of dust to come out all over everybody.
I don't think it was. I think it was smoke more than dust.
Yeah. The point is, Kohaku is chaos.
He has a
He
reputation.
is.
She has a reputation at the school for causing issues. To the point that the principal, one of the most common things the principal says to her is, "Please don't do anything that would require you to write another apology letter."
Which is a good way to show that somebody's a repeat offender without going into detail.
It is.
And granted, I've had to write a few apology letters in my day, but I think in one case I pulled a Spider Jerusalem and just wrote "fuck" 1,800 times.
And only 1,800. His was 8,000.
I didn't feel. I hate printers.
And he hates the city, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
At that point, though, Kohaku realizes that the magic that summoned the train wasn't hers and tells Hitomi that it might have been Hitomi's magic. Hitomi's like, but I wasn't using any. And Kohaku's like, but you may have been using it unconsciously. Which makes sense.
It
Which
does.
is basically following through on what we saw with the pool.
Yeah. And of course, when Hitomi goes back to the Photography and Arts Club after having joined them, Kohaku goes with her. So they all go to take photos of the night skyline from the school roof, which, once again, the principal's like, please, again, don't do anything that would require paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
And it's at this point that we meet more of Chigusa, who is a bit of a mischief-making troll who likes to poke and prod, specifically at Kurumi. Like, she's his main target, which, if I had to make a guess, is just like that little boy pulling pigtails of the girl he likes in first grade. But I won't read into that too much.
Mm-hmm.
But because they're going in a dark school, some of the girls are all like, but what about ghosts? And Chigusa's like, haha, ghost story. And Kuri's like, I fucking hate you. It's like, fine, we'll stay out here instead of going into the school. And because of that, they get to the rest of the group goes up to the night skyline to start taking pictures. And there's a little mix-up when Sho says Tsukihiro, which is the last name of both Kohaku and Hitomi, and they both answer to it. And he's like, okay, I'm going to call you Hitomi and Kohaku. And he says, that should be okay, right, guys? That we call them by their first name since there's two Tsukishiros here? And everybody's like, yeah, sure, that's great, except for Aoi, who calls them Kohaku and Tsukihiro-san. Which is a little off-putting.
Yep.
Well,
But it's a bit after they do the photo shoot that Hitomi tells everyone that she's from the future, with Kohaku being her grandmother.
And that's mostly because Kohaku mentions that Hitomi's her talented grandchild offhand, and they overhear it.
Mm-hmm. So, cat's out of the bag by that point.
Blabbermouth is blabbing.
Then again, we did say that Kohaku is chaos.
Yes.
he did.
Yes. And after they reveal that, they take a simple drawing of a train that Aoi made and put it into the sky as basically a magical animation in the sky. And so the rest of the photography club takes pictures of this.
Mm-hmm. And of course that brings us to episode 5, A Modest Recipe.
Sasayaka na recipe.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Kohaku ends up joining the Photography and Arts Club, thus making it the Magic Photography and Arts Club.
That was almost a Freudian slip of epic proportions, Monk.
Yes, it was.
No, Kohaku is 100 million times better than Kotaku, people. We will leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we will.
But yeah, the club becomes the Magic Photography Arts Club. Especially because, well, she ended up disbanding the Magic Club it's supposedly by accident, but you never know.
Well, she says it's by accident, and then she describes what went on, and it's by accident, as in magical accidents she continued to cause chasing people away.
Mm-hmm.
So it is by accident, for sure. Just not in the way that usually means.
No.
it's also with this episode that we start seeing some of the interpersonal dynamics of the rest of the club. Very specifically, Asagi and Sho have been friends since childhood, and Asagi carries an intense crush on Sho, who Sho, while being the guy who says I'll help and is always willing to help out and lead people, is as dumb as a box of fucking bricks, to the point that everyone around him constantly gets exasperated when he doesn't know how to read the fucking room.
I believe I said denser than tungsten at one point.
You did. And then I said I was going to downgrade that to denser than a neutron star. Did I say downgrade? I meant upgrade. Thank you, Bill Wirtz, for that joke. I will never not use it. It is a good joke, and I will always accredit you as well, Bill Wirtz.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
But there, Hitomi, you do start seeing her trying to practice with her magic to try and get some results because of how it made Aoi happy, while he's trying to express his thoughts through art after trying to do job hunting instead of pursuing art school. And later on, Kohaku holding a pep rally / potluck at the Tsukishiro residence to try and basically play matchmaker. It doesn't quite work because anybody playing matchmaker in an anime or trying to set up scenarios in that sense, it always backfires.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. And the biggest way that he told me was practicing her magic was to try and create some star sands to help Aoi with his artist's block. We see this process of her turning star sand into blackened messes multiple times until she uses the whole bag of high quality star sand,
And
which
it's in trouble for it.
both Kohaku and Hitomi have to wash it because the sand can be reused if you wash it with magic.
Yep.
But
oh, go ahead.
She does eventually give him the star sand while they're both sent out to go get more juice that they didn't actually have to get. It was just Kohaku saying, "We're out of juice. Go get more." And Sho says something about how Hitomi is trying her best despite all the things that are happening. And this causes Asagi to get a little jealous because it's clear Sho is showing an interest in Hitomi. And at that point, due to her poor feelings, Kohaku's like, "Yo, you can do this. You just gotta push forward. Even if my fortune telling from the very beginning of the episode told you have terrible luck in love." And so she tries to make postcards with her rabbit-themed photography because Asagi's whole thing is rabbits, as you can tell from her freaking name. Very close to Usagi. And cute things, even if they're bugs. Because she takes pictures of a few bugs that are really cute, too. I have to agree with her. Some of the bug pictures she took were pretty cute. Never say a Kabuto Mushi is gross. I might punch you. But this also means that she doesn't decide to step forward with her feelings and just tries to be close to Sho. Well, at the same time, we finally see Aoi using the star sand and getting the inspiration of a glow of stars. But then he sees a golden fish swimming around in the stars before jumping into his tablet.
Because once again, that whole thing of bringing art to life.
Yep. And this
And
is another time that the golden fish has been seen, but
yep.
this time by Aoi instead of Hitomi.
And speaking of which, that's the title of the next episode, Golden Fish.
In iro no sakana.
Mm-hmm. Where the first thing we learn is that the first appearance of that golden fish was a art competition in elementary school that Aoi got first place in. Basically giving the whole thing of Aoi's had art talent for a long time, but there's always seems to be the vibe of him not quite knowing what direction he wants to go. And
Of course,
oh, good.
Sho and Aoi have been friends
Mm-hmm.
for ages. He was there when Aoi won that particular competition,
Mm-hmm.
and even shows. He told me a picture of that particular triumphant moment, which, because the two of them are walking side by side, Asagi sees this and gets jealous again.
Mm-hmm.
But this also leads to probably one of my favorite sequences. Kudumi's like, "Hey, let's get some cool pictures and some costumes at a place."
Mm-hmm.
Bit of a garden place. And they dress up in some very Victorian, Western world Victorian looking dresses and suits and take a bunch of pictures of them. It's really cool. And Hitomi has also started taking pictures of everybody else, specifically focusing on monochrome photography because it helps hide the fact that she can't see color. And while they're all doing that, eventually Aoi wanders off to try and draw some more, and Hitomi follows him, wondering what's up, before accidentally getting tucked into his drawing, I guess is the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fish draws her in again. And leads her through this colorful scenery that he's actually drawing on the tablet. You can see where on the tablet he had crossed stuff out, and now you see these crossed out things in this world. But the further she travels, the less colorful it becomes and the more broken down into almost a wasteland.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a big golden fish and a bunch of smaller, colorful fishes, all dying in the middle of what looks to be the remains of a lake because of a net. She also sees someone or something trying to capture a still living, very tiny golden fish. And when she tries to stop him, she wakes up from this whole thing on a bench, having fainted
Mm-hmm.
or collapsed. He told me he tries to talk to Aoi about it, but Aoi doesn't want to talk about it, gets upset, and they are avoiding each other for a while. At one point, Aoi goes to the magic shop to buy some star sand for a friend who is having a new opening in their gallery, or a new exhibition in a gallery, an art exhibition, and is given a star sand that has the scent of the forest. And while he's been avoiding, he told me he goes to this friend's exhibition and gives her the star sand. This friend being also a senpai of his who has already graduated and is trying to do her own thing with art. And there comes a point where Kohaku encourages Hitomi to go find Aoi and talk things out, because that's the only way they're going to get things resolved. And they come around seeing Aoi come out of the gallery with his friend, who is a woman. Hitomi freaks out and runs away. And Aoi chases her. Until eventually he catches her at one of the trolley stops. And lets her know that he wants her to see his newest drawing when he finishes it. And they both agree on this, and she gets on. So it's probably the bus. Or it's a bus. I think it's a bus.
Yeah, it looks like a bus, yeah.
She gets on the bus to start traveling back towards the magic shop, especially since it's raining out. But suddenly the golden fish appears outside of her window, and her sense of colors is suddenly restored. Which it is one of those moments that caught these two who'd never seen the show before and captivated them. Y'all were stunned into silence. And it's also one of the moments where the audio engineering really shines, and I think it's a good time to bring that up right now. The opening and ending and all of the background OST are superb. Especially the background OST, which is intricately weaved in to give the exact emotion and impact that it needs to. As for the opening and ending, both play with colors fading in and fading out, and both songs do so in a different way. The opening is a bit playful and happy, so the colors fade in and out whimsically as little splashes here and there. Whereas the ending theme is a little more morose, a little more somber, and the colors fade in very slowly and gradually. You almost don't notice it.
Yeah.
The end of episode stingers do the same thing too.
Yeah.
They do.
And unfortunately, when we get to episode 7, The Burden of Venus,
Venus no Omoni.
Hitomi's sense of colors is gone again.
Yep. She had it, and then she lost it.
And this is also where we start getting into our summer break arc. Since Yamabuki and Kurumi are prepping for exams as third years, and Asagi and Hitomi, who have become the future president and vice president in the pecking order, they are entrusted.
Hitomi's the very future vice president.
They are. They end up getting the role of setting up the camp planning for summer break.
Yep.
However, it's revealed here about Kurumi having a bit of a inferiority complex regarding her elder sister, since she works as a famous pastry chef.
A patissier. But Kurumi, the reason Kurumi has an inferiority complex isn't just because of her sister, though her sister's the biggest one. It's the fact that she doesn't feel like she has the same drive anyone else around her does, the same passion. Hitomi constantly keys into this. Hitomi is very good at reading emotion, despite having been withdrawn, apparently. And this is where Kurumi does reveal, yeah, I'm. You don't need to worry about me too much. Sho has a passion for photography. Aoi has a passion for art. But Aoi is still aiming for a national university. And that's where she makes the comparison of and my sister is so passionate as well. I just don't have it and don't know how I can have it. Kudumi and Hitomi think they're talking alone, but Chigusa, being Chigusa, is eavesdropping. And he he hears when Kudumi tells Hitomi, "Please don't tell anyone, especially not Chigusa." And later on, Chigusa shows her a bunch of photos that he's taken during club activities, especially of her, saying that she'll find something she loves for sure in the future. Which causes Kudumi to once again chastise him for, well, being the troll that he is. And then also saying that eavesdropping is a bad habit. And then being like, well, while I don't know what I have the true passion for, I guess I'll use it with photography right now. And there was a couple of other things that happened, such as Aoi showing Hitomi his new painting picture, which is a very colorful one, like super colorful. It had little bubbles of color everywhere. And it had a hand reaching out to those bubbles full of objects. And Hitomi loves seeing all of those colors. But as they're all talking about, each of them taking different photos for their projects, Chigusa, who has talked about how the concept for his project is a forlorn maiden looking at a ship slowly going out to sea, as if someone is on it that she'll never see again, while they're on the bridge. Which, by the way, when I was looking up Nagasaki Prefecture, that arced bridge with the big like support arc on the top of it, it is absolutely a part of Nagasaki City. It's a bridge that's actually there. And they rush to try and get there before the last boat leaves. In fact, even dropping some of the coolers and larger bits of equipment they had with them to dash to the middle of the bridge to get the picture. But it doesn't work out. And instead, they start helping out Chigusa with a different picture idea, with Kudumi being his model because he insists on it. Because again, I'm telling you, the reason he trolls her is it's just like the little boy pulling on the pigtails of the girl he likes. But as she's watching this whole thing, Hitomi comes to a decision and finally tells the rest of the group that she can't see color.
And of course, once Kohaku finds out about this, she has old habits dying hard with episode 8, Fragile Fragments,
Hokorobi no Kakera,
where her theory is that she used magic on herself that caused her to not be able to see color, and she has Aoi do a bunch of experiments with Hitomi to try and figure out how to break the spell. But since it's Kohaku, her experiments aren't exactly the most subtle.
Neither the most subtle nor the most scientific. She basically tries to see if romantic feelings with Aoi are what are causing the changes, and seeing if that helps her to see color.
But the big thing to come out of this is that it's more or less known that Hitomi's not going to be able to stay in this era forever. But Hitomi herself doesn't want to go back.
This also strengthens Kohaku to make her even more determined to practice time magic in order to safely send Hitomi back.
And I'd say that if it seems a bit light when it comes to episode 8, that's because that is more or less the focus.
Yeah,
Episode 9 is wandering words. Now I almost had another Freudian slip by saying worlds instead of words.
true. Samayo kotoba.
Mm-hmm.
Hitomi actually asked Sho if he could help her take photos of the city because she wants to have photos of this time period, just in case for the future. And he says that he will, and he takes her around all his favorite photographing spots, including this tower that he says is the best for a skyline. And as they're returning back from this trip, Sho is like, "Yo, he told me I like you. Go out with me." And she freaks out and runs the hell away. This also causes her to start avoiding the club and asking, Kohaku for help. And Kohaku's just like, "You just need to tell him the truth." But it also has the poor, very poor misunderstanding occur that Asagi sees what's happening and, doesn't feel too good about it. But she does tell Hitomi in the end that she needs to give the confessor a proper answer, or it's just going to weigh heavy on them both.
Mm-hmm.
So Hitomi takes Sho up to the roof and is like, "No, I can't date you. There's someone else I think I like." And Sho's like, "Okay." And Hitomi leaves.
Mm-hmm.
And Aoi goes up there to tell him, to talk to him after he's been rejected. And as they're talking, eventually Sho stands up and screams at the top of his lungs, that's a very youthful thing to do. Mm-hmm. That is very true to being a teenager in angst, no matter what part of the world you're in. But after Hitomi gave her answer to Sho and comes back from that, Asagi thinks that maybe she accepted it and freaks out and says, "I really liked Sho," and runs away. And that she liked Sho ever since they were childhood friends.
Mm-hmm. And that brings us to episode 10, Monochromatic Crayon.
Monokuro no Kureyon. Yeah, it's very close to English. They're both loan words.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Kohaku's next scheme for club activities is using magic to bring students to come and see anthologies into the photos and pictures.
Yep, they basically make a magic or are planning to make a magic exhibition that allows people to see inside the pictures. It is also at this time that Hitomi and Asagi come together to talk to each other about what happened and eat parfaits together and cry together about the whole thing and are good friends again. And it's at one point Kohaku's like, "By the way, I'm not going to be the one casting the magic to put people into the pictures. You are." So Hitomi starts really practicing putting paper airplanes inside a picture and out.
Mm-hmm.
She eventually comes to a point where she can have the magic last for 3 minutes.
Yep.
And part of the plan was to have Aoi draw something, since A, that would allow Hitomi to see the colors, and B, He's the only one who knows how to draw in the entire club. And they all give him different ideas, like bunnies and pirates and penguins and a bunch of other things. And he essentially makes a theme park. And they all go into the fantasy world, all 7 of them. Each of them starts in the clouds and then gets an umbrella to Mary Poppins their way down to the land itself.
And of course,
exploring
I had to make the Guardians of the Galaxy joke.
Yeah. And they all go down there and explore all the different sights and sounds, from the pirate ship to a penguin village to a field of bunnies, which of course Asagi is just head over heels with, to a rainbow bridge, to a flying whale. And eventually Asagi, excuse me, not Asagi, Aoi and Hitomi are in a forest, and they come across a very dark area as they're following the golden fish through the forest. At some point, Hitomi disappears, and Aoi comes up to a giant door of stone, or a giant door with a stone statue of Hitomi sitting in a chair next to it. And when he opens the door and goes inside, he finds a very young Hitomi who is drawing a queen and a princess separated by what is supposed to be a river. But again, it's all in black and white because it's Hitomi.
Yeah.
And he asks the girl why the princess can't be with the queen. And she just says they can't, because they can't. He's like, well, she could cross a bridge or take a boat or fly on a bird. And she just knocks them off the page and continues drawing the drawing. But Aoi is like, can I draw with you at least? And she's like, sure, and gives him a piece of paper, and he starts drawing with her. But when they get back to the present, Hitomi tells Aoi that her mother was the first in the family to be non-magical. She didn't have any magical powers. She was not a mage.
Yeah.
But then Hitomi could do magic. And then just one day, out of the blue, her mother left. And Hitomi took the blame for that. She figured that since she could cast magic and her mother couldn't, it tortured her mother, and her mother left. And so she was being punished for having magic. Which is, again, where we hear that Maho nante daikirai.
Yeah.
Since she believes that's the reason that her magical ability is why she was estranged from her mother.
Yes.
But that brings us to episode 11, The Waning Moon.
Kaketei Kutsuki.
Which, well, after a bit of a walk home, there's a bit of a montage of preparation for the Magic Photography Arts Club. But in the middle of cleaning up, Hitomi just disappears, only to reappear again. And having no memory of what happened. She just showed up in one spot. And Kohaku starts getting worried about this. Sends a message to Professor Utley from England. And that's where the discovery happens that time magic isn't permanent. and because of Hitomi's presence in the past, it will cause divergences, creating gaps. And if you're in those gaps for too long, you may not come out. And in because of the fact that she doesn't have the level of power to send her back now, she asked Hitomi to collaborate when it comes to sending her back, as well as finding the purest star sand that they can, and getting everybody else's help as well.
This is after there was a typhoon and Hitomi went missing once again and disappeared. The typhoon washed up a bunch of powerful star sand up onto the shore, which wasn't the case when Kohaku first went out looking for star sand with just her dad.
Yeah.
But it's decided that Hitomi will depart in 2 days during the cultural festival, because there will be a new moon which will enhance the powers of that star sand.
But Hitomi struggles with her own emotions. Not only her lack of motivation, but the emotions she's been feeling more and more for Aoi. And she sends him a paper airplane through magic with one simple message on it: I want to see you. And of course, this is once again where the audio engineering was peak Kino on point, because instead of cutting to the ending, they used it as an enhancement for the entire scene of her sending an airplane, him getting it, and indicating to her with his light that he got it. This is where I made the remark of, it's 2018. Don't they have smartphones?
Yeah.
It was a bit cute that they used essentially Morse code with turning the lights on and off. Which
but he
feels like something out of an 80s.
He goes to send him a second. Yes, it was really cute. It was really cute. Hitomi goes to send him a second airplane, but it doesn't go towards his house anymore. And she sees that it's going elsewhere, so she runs the hell out of her house and chases after it. And halfway in the middle of the city, along some of the streets, she finds Aoi running towards her place at the same time. And they run into each other's arms.
But that leads us to the penultimate, on the bright shining day.
Hikaru hikaru kono ichinichi ga hikaru.
And one of the things that comes out of it early on is Hitomi trying to figure out why she was brought back 60 years.
Yep. And they also want Hitomi to enjoy the festival as the last big thing that she does there before she goes back to her time.
Yeah.
On the first day of the festival, they're doing the big, hey, everybody come into this magical painting, which they have a lot of fun doing. And that night, the Tsukishiro family has a huge feast. So Kohaku is even like, what's with all the food, Mom? And her mom's like, well, it's Hitomi's last night here, right? So I gotta show off all my cooking chops. And so they have a really nice family moment. And then on the second day of the cultural festival, Asagi tries to give Hitomi and Aoi time off so that they can have time together to go do stuff. Like, go look at the different booths and eventually go through the haunted house. Asagi is attempting to allow Aoi to sort out his feelings and tell her how he feels directly. But Aoi holds back because he thinks that if he tells her, it's going to be a burden to her when she goes back to the future.
Yeah.
And at the last big event of the cultural festival, the Magic Photography Club decides to throw up some magical fireworks as the closing ceremony.
It should be noted that throughout all of this, a big reason why Kohaku is so passionate about magic is she finds happiness in making people happy through magic. But as the series goes on, it's kind of hinted that making people happy is not all that it might be, is not as easy as it might seem.
Yeah, making people happy is not easy, and Kohaku kind of feels like a constant failure or imposter. But as they're doing the fireworks, Hitomi realizes she can see the fireworks in color again, even if she can't see her friends in color or anything else in color. Which again, OST definitely pulls its weight here.
It does.
But then they start heading to the park, where they've done so many things, to send Hitomi back. Which is where we get to the final episode, The World in Colors, or Iroduku Sekai no Ashtakara.
And the way that the spell is set up, everybody has their own Star Sand trail, with Hitomi combining all of it to set the whole thing up. But because of the fact that there's still some time, everybody decides to leave their own final message. In Yamabuki's case, it's to have more confidence. In Chigusa's case, it's to smile more. In Kurumi, it's a thanks for joining the club. Asagi promises to write letters dated to the future, and Kohaku gives her love. And of course, Aoi wishes the best and promises to not forget her.
Which is a bit of a timid bow out by him.
Yeah. Hitomi has mentioned that she has changed quite a bit since coming here and thanking everyone for the memories that they gave her. But in the midst of it, her magic interferes, breaking the time magic.
Aoi is the first one to freak out and jump into the storm of star sand and magic to try and save her. But it returns to the inner world that they've been seeing. This one's kind of weird. It just looks like a bunch of paths with bottomless pits all around them, and a Hitomi who can't see or hear anybody and is monochrome in her own right. But as soon as Aoi gets close enough, it's back to Hitomi's little locked up room. And that's where Aoi and Hitomi talk in depth about how they feel about each other. And that they were both really similar in being reserved and withdrawn from the world. And that they both were able to add color to each other's futures. And as they come to this realization, Hitomi starts getting her sense of colors back in full. The monochrome world room starts crumbling to nothing. And eventually we're returned back to the park. Aoi has made it back successfully and safely. And and Hitomi has ostensibly been sent to the future. Kohaku gets a text on her phone confirming this from Kohaku level 77. And the text that says "Thank you for sending Hitomi safely. She made it back fine," is dated September 17th, 2068 or 2078.
Mm-hmm.
A text that should not exist.
No, it shouldn't.
Sent from the future to the past.
Although I believe there was the implication that Kohaku was aware that the time magic she used didn't work.
Yes, that it was actually Hitomi's own magic, which was essentially a curse. Mm-hmm. She had cursed herself because her love of magic had driven her mother away. And once she learned to accept life again and regain her colors, that not only broke that curse, but it also was the limit for the time magic. Once that happened, that was essentially the activation key, and that's when she was sent back to 2078, where she sees Granny Kohaku, this time the old woman again. Mm-hmm. But before we get to Granny Kohaku, we once again get back on the magic bus from the past to the future. Mm-hmm. And as she's about to leave, she asks him, "Do I need to pay you again?" He's like, "Nope. You paid for a full trip with this." And he holds up the Pocky again. And as she's about to go off, the little hand gate comes down, and she's like, "Wait, what?" And he opens up the Pocky package that he had given him. There's still a stick of Pocky left, and he's like, "Your change." That Chekhov's gun was 13 episodes in the making.
Yep.
It was.
And it's one of those things that while you're feeling the sad, melancholy feelings of separation, that it's that little emotional levity that makes you chuckle among the tears.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kohaku, when Hitomi finally gets back, feels apologetic, like she couldn't make Hitomi happy no matter how she tried, and that she felt like she was a failure of a magician, of a mage for that. And Hitomi told her that she was always happy with her grandma. It was her own battle to fight, essentially. At that point, Kohaku asks Hitomi to come to the magic house, and Hitomi gets permission from her father to come to the magic house and stay there that night. And Kohaku digs up a time capsule that everybody made, where things like the letters that Sagi promised to write are, or there are photographs and pictures that they chose to take. And then there's a picture book called The Seven Colored Penguin, which was the only book that she could see colors in when she was a child that she had mentioned to Aoi before. And she never knew why back then. But then you look at it and it's revealed that the author for The Seven Colored Penguin and artist for The Seven Colored Penguin was Yuito Aoi.
Mm-hmm.
And it's essentially a children's book version of the story that we just went through, where a monochromatic penguin who is meant to represent Hitomi gets help from a rabbit who is Asagi, a flying squirrel, Kudumi, which makes sense. Squirrels eat nuts, eat nuts and acorns. Kudumi can mean acorn.
Yeah.
A bear, Aoi himself. A dog, Sho. A cat, which figures for Chigusa, the fucking troll. And then a parrot with Kohaku. I thought that was pretty funny. Mm-hmm. And as she went along, as the penguin goes along with the animals, she becomes more and more able to feel and see colors.
Mm-hmm.
And as she does so, uh, she decides that she wants to try and find her mom, and that she wants to try and connect to people more often, and she wants to hear about the people that she left behind. There is one scene that we see in the end of all this that Hitomi visits a gravesite.
Mm-hmm.
We're not sure whether that's a gravesite for her great grandparents and great great grandma, or maybe for her mother, or maybe for one of the friends that she made along the way who may have perished.
Mm-hmm.
It's never specified, but it's a bit of a somber moment in the rest of the victory fanfare, I guess is the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
But the last thing we see of her is her going back to school, making friends with people who wanted to be her friend in the first place, and also rejoining the Magic Photograph Art Club, Magical Photography Art Club, which is 75 years strong.
The thing that I find funny is when she walks in, it's just the photography and arts club, and only gets the magic part after she rejoins it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so it's a case of like grandmother, like granddaughter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's more or less where things leave off. And
Yeah, there was no ending credits, um after credit scene or anything like that.
yeah, because this isn't really a kind of the because that sort of thing is meant to be open-ended by design. Trying to fill in those gaps would result in a worse story
It
Mm-hmm.
would.
because that's not the focus of the story. The journey that the story is about is more or less finished.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But with that said, I think it's time we render our final judgments.
All right. Well, good ladies and gentlemen watching this humble parliament of just three of us today,
Mm-hmm.
it is time. Good brother Flutter, what do you have for us?
This is very much a story of self acceptance. Learning to appreciate the flaws you live with, and which is very much shown through what our main character goes through. And I enjoy the fact that they show the perspective of her colorblindness, because that's not really something you touch upon with main characters in a lot of mediums. As as said, the audio identity is amazing. The animation's great. I can't give this any higher than Weeb.
And with that, we have a vote of Weeb. Monk, what do you got for me?
When we were gonna do this one, you had mentioned that despite my apprehension with time travel stories, for reasons I've gone into many times over the years, that I would actually enjoy the time travel in this one. And that is largely the case because, unlike a lot of stories, the time travel here is very, very self-contained. A lot of time travel stories end up falling under their own weight with details or plot contrivances or both. That's not what ends up happening here. Much to its benefit. If anything, it's the time travel is just used as a framing device to explain why Hitomi is where she is, and it doesn't go further than that. Plus, by the end, you do have a closed loop. It's not like it's going into extensive amount of details to explain how time travel works or anything like that. It's very straightforward. I mean, I know some might argue that a loop is created with the story of the seven-colored penguin. I don't really think it is.
Neither do I.
I will admit that just looking at the art and character design, I remember when I talked with JT about it, he said it looked generic. Uh, I I think that's honestly doing things a disservice. It's one of those cases where just looking at PV or poster art doesn't do a story like this justice.
No.
That being said, this it, despite us being able to riff with things like Keys Niver, which is a fairly serious story. Um, this is a case where for those who like to riff during anime, you're not going to have as much ammo to work with. And and that's not a knock against it. It's just something to keep in mind. What I will say, however, is that it does exactly what it needs to, and focuses on that and nothing more than that, which is to its benefit. Um, I know that this is put in the genre of time travel, but I don't see it as that kind of story. Because really, once up, it's the time travel thing doesn't really become a factor until the end, after the beginning part. This is more of a acceptance slash coming of age kind of tale, and because of that, I feel obligated to give it a stamp of weeb.
And with that, we have 2 votes of weeb. Now, those of you who have watched enough of these parliaments know that whenever the wheel lands on something and I get excited, it's usually because I've seen it before, and I'm really excited to see the reactions of my colleagues. Iroduku was no different. I watched Iroduku as it was releasing back in 2018. It is a story that really has that roller coaster of emotions that you seek in something that is so potent. There is the friendships, the love, the bittersweet memories, all of it coming together. No real end of the world stakes, but you don't need it for this type of story. The stakes are, there's a girl who, for whatever reason, is withdrawn and can't see color and hates magic. Magic is a part of her bloodline. She's withdrawn and can't see color due to other things we don't know of at the beginning of the story. But it all comes back to her family, or at least her mother. The bonds she makes are essentially bonds that throw off the shackles of her guilt. Because she has the guilt of, I made my mom go away, which wasn't the case. That'd never be the case. No parent would leave because their child has a skill they do not. I guarantee that if we were to get a story about the mother, she would have left because she probably felt guilty about holding back her child. But that's just a speculation on my part. It's speculation that I feel has some pretty good merit to it due to what we have in the show, but a speculation nonetheless. The bonds that she forms are also ones that last, as seen by the fact that all of these people gather together things to give her in the future and constantly ask after her. There's even a implication by Kohaku that they still talk about her. They just can't visit her because she doesn't know about them until she goes back in time and comes back.
Mm-hmm.
So this story is absolutely one that is a character play. It's absolutely about the people and their interactions. And that sort of story does really well with this type of, or that sort of story framing does really well with this type of conflict, which is person versus self, essentially. On top of that, we have, as I've mentioned time and again, the audio engineering is superb. The OST comes in and kicks you in the dick when it needs to, or kisses you on the cheek when it needs to. The uplifting and the sudden drops are all punctuated poignantly by the music, and it's those times where all three of us are just silent. And it's not the same sort of silence of us, oh yeah, we're watching. There's a difference in the quality of silence from when those wham moments hit, that you can tell everybody's kind of on the edge of their seat with tenterhooks, watching this scene that is gripping them. And it does that multiple times. Not just once or twice, but there were at least 5 or 6 moments where it was basically like we were all holding our breath and you could hear a pin drop. And with that sort of gripping narrative, there is no reason in my mind that this story is not a masterpiece. Finally, the artwork. I'm not sure where JT would have gotten its generic from. Even from the PV materials, you can tell the characters are distinct and have their own personalities. And each character's design reflects a little bit about them that you can just kind of tell. Kurumi being the bubbly girl with the glasses, or Asagi being the cutesy, slightly shy one. Sho being the gung-ho guy, and Aoi being the withdrawn artist. Chigusa being the troll, and Hitomi being our main character. I mean, she's got the white hair. Well, nearly white hair. It's lavender. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Kohaku being our spunky mischief maker. It's all right there in their visual designs. And more than that, the design of the setting. We didn't talk about it enough because we were trying to get to the story. But the setting art is detailed, brilliantly colored. And when you're seeing the monochrome world through Hitomi's eyes, that does not detract from the beauty of the situation. Yes, she doesn't see color, and yes, you feel that sorrow for her. You feel that holy shit, she can't see how beautiful this is, but she still sees some beauty in it, because even in black and white, these places are still beautiful. And the art absolutely reflects that. It is a masterwork in how to tell the story visually. I can't stress that enough. And so, very obviously, I'm giving this a rating of weeb. If I could give it a higher rating, I would. Because this is not, oh yeah, you should watch it. This is, please, for the sake of everything you hold dear, please, if you have any interest in art and good stories and good music, please watch this.
Mm-hmm. And with that said, that gives us a unanimous vote of weeb.
Indeed, the Parliament of Geeks finds Iroduku to be weeb.
And thus, it is time to see where the future, what the future has in store for us, because it is time for us to load up the wheel of shows.
Wheel of morality, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the lesson that we should learn.
But we probably won't. All right, let's see what we've got. Drifters.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh boy!
Anybody who's got a problem with that, leave your heads here.
Yes.
So, I look forward to covering that in a few weeks with you all. That should be fun, and hopefully We do not have a return of the streaming curse.
Hopefully.
But that is going to do it for this particular episode. We I will be doing an interview tomorrow with Tab Creations, as mentioned before. I've got a double feature on Wednesday, including the return of The Men Who Stare at Sports Ball, and Thursday and Friday, Valley of the Judged, and of course, this Saturday, the triumphant return of Cloister of the Dice, along with a few other surprises, because I'm always keeping myself busy.
Mm-hmm.
So please look forward to it. But until then, on behalf of the good brothers present and not present, my name is Mildra. I am your gaming monk. Stay